Good afternoon, everyone. Earlier today, it was a solemn moment of recognition for the Capitol police officers and the Metropolitan Police Department officers who so bravely and valiantly defended the Congress, the country, and the Constitution on January 6th. Several of whom, as a result of the events of that day, paid the ultimate sacrifice and lost their lives. It was important for the Congress to come together in this way, confer congressional gold medals to these two departments in connection with the officers who were involved on that fateful day. I just wanted to reiterate our gratitude as House Democrats for those heroes who were on the front line pushing back against the effort to destroy our democracy, halt the peaceful transfer of power, and undermine the foundational principle of free and fair elections. It's unfortunate that as a result of some of the extremism that we continue to see on the other side of the aisle, that it's not clear yet that the threats to our democracy are over. There's still a lot of work to be done to make sure that what we saw with the big lie and what we saw with the violent insurrection and what we saw with the effort to halt the peaceful transfer of power never happens again. House Democrats will continue to be committed to defending democracy while at the same time fighting for freedom, reproductive freedom and otherwise, protecting the public interest and ensuring economic opportunity in every single zip code. And it's our continued hope that our colleagues on the other side of the aisle will do the same. Now I yield to our Assistant Speaker, Catherine Clark, the incoming House Democratic Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to reiterate what an honor it was to be at the Congressional Medal of Honor Award ceremony, and also express my gratitude not only to the members of the Capitol Police and the Metropolitan Police Force, the families who were present, but also to our January 6th Select Committee for their leadership in making sure that we have accountability for that day. And a special thanks to our Vice Chair and Caucus Chair elect Pete Aguilar for his service on that committee. With just 3 weeks left in the 117th Congress, House Democrats are not letting up on our fight for people and for progress. This week, we are on track to take up the NDAA, and we will send the Respect for Marriage Act to President Biden's desk. When right-wing Supreme Court reversed Roe v. Wade and subverted reproductive freedom in this country, House Democrats jumped into action. We voted to protect the right to abortion, the right to access birth control, the right to travel across state lines to receive health care, and the right to marry who you love. We acted to stop Republican extremism that has left women and families around this country worried about their future. Americans don't want a Congress that is limiting their rights, freedoms, and their ability to chart their own future. There is an essential question facing Republicans. Do they have an affirmative vision for our country? Or is their only plan to divide us, suspend our Constitution, and roll the clock back on liberty? House Democrats understand it is our job to build a better future for every American, to meet their challenges with solutions that move us forward. So we're continuing our work to create good green jobs, make our communities safe, tackle the high costs of housing, childcare, healthcare, And no matter where you live or your party affiliation, these are problems that we are going to work to deliver on for the American people. Our commitment is simple: to leave no one behind as we work to strengthen our nation's future. And I will turn over the mic to Pete Ecken.
Thank you, Assistant Speaker, Whip-elect Clark, and to Chairman Jeffries and incoming leader Jeffries. Look forward to working together. And as both leaders mentioned, the significance and the importance of the gold medal ceremony that we attended today isn't lost on me, members of the January 6th committee, and the entire Democratic caucus who stood in lockstep to support that gold medal for Capitol Police officers, Metro Police officers, and those law enforcement first responders. This morning at our caucus meeting, we also talked about the importance of preventing a GOP-led government shutdown and the consequences of a continuing resolution, particularly as it would impact and damage our military. This was underscored by Chairman Adam Smith, who talked about the importance of the National Defense Authorization Act and bringing it to the floor and preventing us from funding any new, how a CR would prevent us from funding any new priorities related to defense. The importance of standing with the people of Ukraine as well. The president has sent us a request for funding, and it's incumbent upon us to act on that in this Congress. And finally, every member of our caucus is encouraged by the economic news. Under the Biden administration, over 10.5 million jobs created, gas prices declining. We're going to continue to try to enact reforms and measures that will help our economy and help our recovery. Also, wanted to acknowledge, and I know you're going to keep your questions incredibly limited because of Portugal-Switzerland knockout round match coming up here shortly. And congratulations to Morocco on the underdog win as well. The chairman will handle your tough questions.
Unfortunately, it's actually for the straggler.
Okay, yeah, that's all right.
Chairman Thompson said this morning that the January 6th committee will be able to promote referrals for people after investigation. The committee said a short while later that referrals will be a part of the discussion going forward. There's decisions, final decisions on that yet. Can you shed some light on what's going on here, what the holdup is on making these decisions and bringing back the candidates?
Decision points ahead. The committee continues to meet, meetings upcoming, and decision points to be made. We'll announce anything that we have, likely as a part of our final report. But what the last comment is the comment that stands, that we haven't finalized any decisions yet. Our options are on the table. Referrals to outside agencies are possible. And as soon as the committee finishes our work, we look forward to sharing the results. Still having conversations, still looking at language. Committee members are meeting almost daily now. We're editing pieces of the report as well. There's chapters that we have read, there's chapters that we have edited, and information that is important that we gleaned as a result of our investigation that is important and will be included. And so figuring out ways to include that, as well as House Resolution 503 talks about the legislative suggestions and recommendations. Obviously, the Electoral Count Act reform is among the biggest and one that we already sent over, but there are others that will be included. So all of that will take time. Members are getting through it, digesting a lot of the information Chairman Thompson has sent over, hundreds of pages for us to read in the reading room. And so getting through that and having decision points ahead. So it's reading and then meeting to talk about that, making suggestions, edits, changes, getting consensus, and then likely going back and reading more and making sure that our edits and changes are reflected in the final documents. That's all it's about. Soon, this month.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you about the NDAA. You guys had conversations about it in your meeting this morning. It looks like the vaccine mandate is likely going to be stripped out of that, but there will not be like numbers that were people that were fired because the vaccine mandate won't be doing a great job. Zach, what do you think about that? Do you think that Democrats are still going to be able to support the NDAA, that that is a thing that members of the party would?
It's my expectation that there will be strong Democratic support for the NDAA, if not uniform, based on the fact that in the past there have always been a handful of members who take a different position with respect to the NDAA. Let's see what happens this time around. I look forward to supporting it.
On the vaccine mandate, what are your thoughts on that being legislation?
I don't want to comment on anything that is not part of a final agreement. There's still a four corners negotiation that is taking place. Senate Republicans, Senate Democrats, House Republicans, House Democrats. I know Chairman Smith is working incredibly hard. The Speaker is working incredibly hard. Let's see what the final product is, but I plan to support it. Heather.
Leader McConnell just said at night that he thinks you guys may be at the point where you need to do a CR into early next year. Everybody's running out of time. There's still not a deal. What are your thoughts on that and the potential implications? And do you feel like Congress is getting enough time to?
There's still several weeks remaining in the calendar year, which is an eternity in Washington, D.C. It's certainly a preliminary, premature observation that we need to move to a continuing resolution. That would undermine our ability to fully fund our domestic priorities, as well as make sure that we have the strongest possible robust defense infrastructure, which is needed at this time, perhaps more so than at any other time since the end of the Cold War, given the threats to our safety and well-being and those of our allies, including in Ukraine across the world. We've got two appropriators, so I don't know if either of them want to weigh in. Yeah.
Yeah, look, the importance of funding government is our focus right now. If Leader McConnell wanted to help our efforts, we can reach a top line number. That's the most important thing we can do. It's still going to take days to get all of that detail done once that top line is negotiated. But right now, what leadership can do, especially Republican leadership, is help us get to that top line, and we can make sure people get home for the holidays. That's the important piece. But protecting our national security, ensuring our readiness for the purposes that Adam Smith talked about with NDAA. But it's also not lost on me, Heather, the timing of this, and Leader McConnell mentioning this on the same day that Kevin McCarthy says, we should start kicking this over to January. And he's got to say whatever he has to do to secure the votes he's trying to secure. He'd auction off real estate and give people committee assignments if that's what's needed. But so if our legislative leaders on the other side of the aisle were serious, they'd help us get to a top line number, and we can ensure some regular order and get this done. But hope springs eternal around this place, and that's what you heard the chairman say.
Second round.
So I know that there's been a lot of discussion about more about the presidential. I want to ask, do you have any thoughts when you do not want to compromise or
From my perspective, the top line is we will always defend democracy, fight for freedom, including reproductive freedom, protect the public interest, and lean into policies that ensure economic opportunity in every corner of America, as opposed to doing things like the GOP tax scam, where 83% of the benefits went to the wealthiest 1% in America. That would be a non-starter. At the same time, we are genuinely interested in trying to find common ground with the other side of the aisle to advance priorities that make life better for everyday Americans. Because that's what Democrats are all about at the end of the day. What can we do here in Washington to improve the lives, the well-being, the safety, and security of the American people? Definitely.
I just wanted to add, I think a real difference between the Democrats and the Republicans is that we are not going to lead by obstruction. We are here to continue the work that we have been doing for the American people. whether that was the American Rescue Plan, getting vaccines in arms, reopening schools and small businesses, the infrastructure bill, the CHIPS and Science, having a bill with common sense measures to reduce gun violence and increase funding for mental health. The gun violence pieces being the first in 30 years. Um, and then on to the Inflation Reduction Act, where we were able to drive down the deficit while increasing, a historic investment in addressing climate change and building resiliency and good green jobs and driving down costs of healthcare for our seniors. So our door is open to continuing to make progress for the American people. And I think that what we are seeing play out for the GOP at this moment is when you lead by division, then it gets hard to put together a team. But our values are clear and we are standing in those, and we will work with anyone who will work in a honest, straightforward way for the American people.
Chairman Jeffries, based on the next slide, I'd like to hear from all three of you on it. But I know there's a large list of items that Democrats have prioritized for the rest of the year. Obviously, government funding is a really big thing, as well as respect to marriage. But are Democrats confident that they'll be able to take care of everything that they have been talking about? I know the Loomis bill, there's been talk about it, transfer of power legislation as well. So are there items that Democrats feel they have to prioritize and then leave the rest of the possible in Congress?
There are ongoing discussions within the House Democratic Caucus family, of course, led by Speaker Pelosi, who is always hard at work advancing the priorities of the American people that we share in common, and making sure we can get as much over the legislative finish line as possible. Those discussions are ongoing. The efforts are ongoing. They will continue to bear fruit, as we will see later on this week when we pass the Respect for Marriage Act and send that to the president's desk to be signed into law. I've not had the opportunity to talk to Kevin McCarthy about this issue, but here is my view on the subject. George Washington, in his farewell address to the nation, made the profound observation in 1796 that the Constitution is sacredly obligatory upon all. That means everyone. It includes charlatans, demagogues, racial arsonists, malignant narcissists, wannabe dictators, and former presidents. All of the above. The Constitution is sacredly obligatory upon all. That means you, Donald, you do not have the ability to terminate the Constitution. That's the beauty of American democracy. Why is it so hard for my colleagues on the other side of the aisle who've been taken over by the extreme MAGA Republican wing of the GOP to make that simple observation? It's been part of the character of the nation going all the way back to the founding of the Republic. It made its way into George Washington's farewell address to make it clear. The Constitution is sacredly obligatory upon all. It's in the DNA of this nation. It should not be that complicated to denounce the former president. Go to the back. Well, Well, those discussions are ongoing according to the caucus rules. The incoming leader will have until the middle of February or so to make that decision. I expect that it will happen much sooner than that. Go back to the other side, yeah. Well, let's see what happens. I don't want to comment about what may or may not occur because, as I mentioned earlier, 3 weeks is an eternity here in Washington, D.C., and a lot could happen over the next few weeks to get things over the finish line, whether that relates to, as it will, the NDAA, hopefully a year-end spending agreement, not a continuing resolution. And let's see what happens in other areas like the Electoral Count Act or dealing with business such as the debt ceiling. The one thing that is clear, and this is another example of Republican extremism, the notion that extreme MAGA Republicans would threaten to default on our nation's debt for the first time in American history in order to blow up Social Security and Medicare is stunning. It's catastrophic if that were to occur. And it's my hope that we can find a way out of the brinksmanship, particularly given the fact that major Republican leaders have threatened to hold the American economy hostage to their extreme ideology on Social Security and Medicare. That's problematic. Let's see if we can find a way to deal with it over the next few weeks. If not, we're going to have to confront it next year.
It's just another, as the chairman said, stunning example of a quest for power that excludes all other factors. There is no reason why, even before all the votes were counted in the midterms, we see leaders from that party saying we will take our economy hostage in order to undermine our seniors and healthcare in this country with Social Security and Medicare cuts. It is beyond irresponsible, and it is the type of vision that the current GOP in the House has for the American people. So again, our door is open if they decide to work for our economy, to continue to recover, to continue to make an economy where every single person can see opportunity for themselves.
Question for how do you seek to unite the progressives at one end of the party and more moderate conservative Democrats at the other end of the party? And in terms of this and other issues, what do you hope to do similarly as a leader to make sure that
I think on our side of the aisle, it's all wine and roses right now. It's puppies and rainbows. Because we are coming off of historic overperformance in terms of the House of Representatives, when my colleagues on the other side of the aisle were measuring the drapes, predicting that we were going to lose 40, 50, 60 seats. This would be the equivalent of what happened in 2010. That didn't occur. Because as a family, we have moved forward together. Progressives, New Dems, Blue Dogs, problem solvers, all points in between. Because at the end of the day, what unites us is our genuine, authentic commitment to putting people over politics, to fighting for lower costs, for better paying jobs, for safer communities, defend democracy, fight for freedom, protect the public interest, ensure economic opportunity in every corner of America. Those aren't just words, that's a way of life for House Democrats, which brings us all together. And with this incredible leadership team, Catherine Clark, Pete Aguilar, and others who reflect the gorgeous mosaic of the caucus, and the caucus reflects the gorgeous mosaic of the American people, I'm looking forward to continuing to advance the ball and make progress for everyday Americans. Thank you.